All right, everybody, welcome into the high noon edition of Pugs Moran Live here on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the first of two streams that I do each and every day. The first one, this one, High Noon Live. We run through all of the trending topics, headlines, hot topics, anything that people are talking about. It's a current events driven show. That's what this is. We go through all the newspapers, all the news sites, all the social media platforms. We look at what, see what people are talking about, and then we bring it to you here. Why? Because I don't want you to be running around bumping into things, not knowing what's happening in the world. I said the first of two streams because we also come back at 9 o'clock tonight, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. All times are Central Standard Time. And we do something we call the Pillow Pundits with Pugs and Parker on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. That's 9 o'clock every night, Central Standard Time. That's the second. This is the first. All right. Again, I'm still nursing a cold. I don't know if you can tell my voice. I kind of like the way my voice sounds a little bit deeper. A little bit deeper than normal. It's a little bit, got some congestion, got some coughing going on, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it, and it's going to be harder than normal because today kind of sucks, man. I mean, today, I know I told you, I said, we are not going to get distracted. We are not going to get bogged down in, Olympic minutia. But honestly, beggars can't be choosers. There is not a whole lot going on in the world today. There's the stuff that is trending. Well, here's the problem. The Oscar nominations came out, right? So every individual little aspect having to do with the Oscars, people who got snubbed, actors and actresses who were, nominated, they're all trending individually, and they are quite literally gumming up the works of discourse in this country because there is absolutely nothing else to talk about. It's all just this. But don't worry. I mean, I use more than just the social media networks. I also use the newspapers and I use the news sites and all that. So there are some things. But between the Olympics and the Oscars, here's what I'm trying to say. There are a few stories that have me going, okay, I could talk about that. I got some hot takes on that one. But then there's a lot of stuff that's just like, all right, let's work through this, folks. Let's make sure we get through it. And I'm not saying it's going to be work for you. Although listening to this show, depending on how you feel about it, could be work or it could be enjoyable. I am hoping that it is the latter. All right, let's get into what today is. High noon today. It is February the 8th, Tuesday afternoon on the 22nd. It is 2022 is the year. Are you still stumbling on the year? I'm not. And you know how I know I'm not stumbling on the year? I don't write checks anymore. That was always the way you could tell. Oh, look at me. Got to throw this check out. I accidentally wrote last year's year. I don't do that anymore. Most of the stuff that comes up, it's all digital. So, but it is 20. What the hell just happened? It is 2022. Let me get a drink and I'll tell you about today. That's the other thing. Yesterday, when I go through this day in history, now a lot of things happen on any given day. There is a list of things, but a lot of them are just like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't care that on this day in the Afghan province of blah, that this person won re-election. We don't care about that. That's not newsworthy. That's not the caliber of today on this day in history. Not a whole lot of stuff happened. As I did I tell you it's the 39th day of the year? 326 more days until the end of the year. 326 days. Get your New Year's Eve plans now. Get ahead of the curve. Come on, folks. Throw the best New Year's Eve party ever. Start planning now. On this day in 1910, this is fairly representative of the kind of day this has been in history. On this day in 1910, the Boy Scouts of America is incorporated. BFD. Is that even still a thing? Is that, I mean, do kids, I don't know any kids who are in the Boy Scouts. Do you? That started to not really be a thing with my generation. And then that was like before everyone knew about all the diddling and all that stuff that was going on. Is the Boy Scouts still a thing? Is it? It's got to be, right? I mean, I guess it is. No thanks. Have your kids play football. Have your kids get involved in team sports. They can get the same level of camaraderie. I mean, I don't need my kid knowing how to start a fire with a couple of sticks, okay? It's already difficult enough keeping lighters and matches away from him. I don't need him knowing how to do it with nothing. On this day in 1915, and boy, look at this, on the day the Oscars are announced, on this day in 1915, D.W. Griffith's controversial film, The Birth of a Nation, premieres in Los Angeles. And oh, did the critics of 1950 love this movie. You want to talk about how times change. D.W. Griffith was heralded as a genius in the new art form of filmmaking, and such a powerful, such a wonderful film The Birth of a Nation was. It's a hero story for the ages. Problem is that the heroes in D.W. Griffith's controversial film, The Birth of a Nation, were Klan members. It was about the heroic job the Ku Klux Klan has been doing. 1915. A hero story for the ages, the LA Times called it. Not kidding. Yeah, here we are, Birth of a Nation. A story about how awesome it is to be in the Ku Klux Klan. Released on this day in 1915. And that's really it. I mean, there's some things that happened in World War II, but nothing like really big, some battles, and really nothing. Plane crashes, though. Oh boy, folks, we got some plane crashes. Do we ever? We got a lot of plane crashes. Not a great day to travel today. On this day in 1965, Eastern Airlines Flight 663 crashes in the Atlantic Ocean and explodes, killing everyone on board. Wouldn't have wanted to be flying around in 1965. I know people in 1965 thought, this is cool. It happens. This is something relatively new. They got the bugs worked out. No, they didn't. Not in 1965. Eastern Airlines flight proved that. Crashed into the ocean. On this day in 1989, Independent Air Flight 1851 strikes Pico Alto Mountains while on approach to Santa Maria Airport, killing all 144 people on board. What's our body count up to? Well, I guess we don't know because the Eastern Airlines flight that crashed into the ocean, we don't have a body count. On this day in 1993, Iran Air Tours collided with an Iranian Air Force jet in midair, killing 133 people on board. Plane crashes. Oh, we got plane crashes. I'm obsessed with plane crashes. I'm obsessed with them. First of all, I hate to fly. Even though I do believe, or at least I've convinced myself, that these days we do have the majority of the troubling bugs worked out of commercial airline travel. I figure they got it down to almost a science at this point. The things that I'm worried about now when I'm in a plane is, terror related stuff. But if I was flying in 1965, I'd be like, these new engines they're using, are they sure they know how to work them? Are they sure that these are the right engines? You're not going to come up with like a much better engine in 10 years, are you? And you're going to go, I can't believe we ever used those ones in 1965. Bugs. There had to have been bugs. Birthdays. Let's do some birthdays. We've got a lot of birthdays. Got a lot of good birthdays. Birthdays are fun. Birthdays for people that we celebrate, even funner. On this day, born 1925, Jack Lemmon. American actor. I've seen Jack Lemmon's grave. I went to when I was in Hollywood one year. I went to that. So creepy. Big Dick Hunter was like, "Come on, we got to go and do a little tour of Hollywood." And I'm like, "Awesome! I want to go to the movie theater studios. I want to do the Walk of Fame." He took me on like a Hollywood death tour. We went to that cemetery where all the big celebrities are dead, like Marilyn Monroe and all of them. And Jack Lemmon is buried. I don't know what's called, West Lawn, something lawn. I don't know, whatever. But it's like the cemetery in Hollywood where every single tombstone is like a big movie star. You're like, oh, wow, look at that. Jack Lemmon had one of the coolest tombstones I've ever seen. Jack Lemmon's tombstone, by the way, he died in 2001. Jack Lemmon's tombstone says, it's just a big gray tombstone, and it says Jack Lemmon, and it says starring in. That's all. No date of birth, no date of death. Just, a grave. Jack Lemmon starring in, and then a grave. Oh, that was great. That's almost as good as the one that you see, but you see this one all the time. The one that you see that says, I told you I was sick. That's funny. Funny the first 1,000 times, but people do that. I like Jack Lemmon starring in. That's it. Just a grave. Born on this day in 1931. I got a few hot takes on this guy. James Dean, born on this day in 1931, died in 1955. I don't get why James Dean is so iconic. I don't get it. I've seen Giant. I've seen Rebel Without a Cause. He only made like a couple movies. He was just did a couple of movies. He didn't seem all that great, I mean, I after he died, it's like everybody was like, he would have been the greatest. Well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I mean, but he died. He died. He died because he kind of lived recklessly. He crashed his Porsche that he was racing around the Mulholland Hills. I don't get it. I don't understand. He was Rebel Without a Cause. I hate that movie. I've tried to watch that movie a couple of times. First time I saw it was in college. They made us watch it. This is an example of, whatever. I don't even remember because we started watching it in class and I was like, okay, all right. I guess this is better than no, that was a fun class. That film class, sitting in that class, watching a movie was not more fun than just whatever it was we were going to learn about. That was boring. He overacted. James Dean, you're tearing me apart. I didn't get it. I'm like, this guy is an icon. All right. But anyway, happy birthday, John Williams, or James Dean, and happy birthday, John Williams. And that's the guy we could celebrate. John Williams, who has made he's like a film composer. He creates all the scores and music for all the greatest movies. I mean, whether John Williams did Jaws, right? That's pretty cool. Oh man, was that creepy, right? When that's John Williams. Why am I doing John Williams? He was mocked on an episode of SCTV back in the day. So they pronounced his name like John Williams. John Williams also did Star Wars. Come on, the Star Wars music. Oh my God. Bum 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 bum. You can't watch a college football game now without at some point in the game one of the bands just cranking into that song whenever it's like a tense moment in the game when something bad's about to happen. They play the Darth Vader music. Bum, 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 bum. Raiders of the Lost Ark. John Williams did everything. I can't really do him justice by just mentioning a few, but John Williams, born on this day in 1932, still alive. John Williams is a treasure. Born on this day in 1940, Ted Koppel. That news guy, 2020. I thought he was dead. He's not. He's still alive. Good for you, Ted Koppel, hanging in there. Born on this day in 1941, Nick Nolte, one of the great actors of the 70s and 80s, and I guess into the 90s. Hasn't really been doing much lately, but Nick Nolte, born on this day in 1941. Nick Nolte movie draft. I can't do it. Man. North Dallas 40, right? That's what I would give him first. North Dallas 40. He's so good in that. As the broken down quarterback who needs pills and booze. And then I guess I'd go with what? Prince of Tides. But I didn't even see Prince of Tides. I just know he's in that movie. Affliction, right? He was in Affliction. That was good. Affliction was good. Yeah, can't do a Nick Nolte movie draft. Sorry, just not that big on him. Also born on this day in 1953, just a delightful lady. Don't know her, never met her. Just a delight, though. Mary Steenburgen, born on this day in 1953. Mary Steenburgen, and maybe this is just due to my own immaturity and then morphing into maturity, but Mary Steenburgen became super attractive to me the older she got. I don't know why. Like, I remember Mary Steenburgen in the 80s. She wasn't necessarily not necessarily. She wasn't at all. She wasn't like sexy or, attractive or, I mean, she's attractive. She's a fine looking normal woman. She was like a really good actress who made a whole bunch of movies, who looked like an attractive woman in Akron, Ohio. She didn't look, she wasn't Hollywood attractive. She was just an attractive, normal woman. And she was a good actress. She did a lot of movies. But then like as she got older, she's so cute. Like on Curb Your Enthusiasm, she's adorable as Mrs. Ted Danson playing herself. On the FX show Justified, she played a mob boss in Justified. Super cute, super attractive. I've come around on Mary Steenburgen, and now I love her. I do. I think she's fantastic. Happy birthday, Mary Steenburgen, born on this day in 1953. Born on this day in 1961, American singer, songwriter, actor, murderer, Vince Neil of Motley Crue, lead singer of Motley Crue, Vince Neil, born on this day. Yeah, he's a murderer. He was he killed the drummer from the band Hanoi Rocks back in the 80s. They didn't kill him with a gun or a knife or anything like that, but he killed him because they were partying. Come on, let's party. They partied hard back then, and apparently they ran out of beer, and Vince Neil and the drummer from Hanoi Rocks jumped in Vince Neil's Corvette to go get a beer run, and he was wasted, and he got into an accident. And he killed the drummer from Hanoi Rocks, and I believe see, I don't want to do this. I don't want to just like forget about the innocent victims, because I do believe he killed some personal life, marriages, charity, legal troubles. All right, well, he's got a lot of legal troubles. During the 1980s, with Motley Crue's rising fame, Vince Neil, along with his bandmates, were well known for using drugs, mostly cocaine, LSD, and heroin, which bandmate Nikki Sixx became addicted to. However, during an interview in 2015, he stated he had been using cocaine even before joining the band, and like Sixx before him, became addicted to cocaine and heroin. Neil and his bandmates went to rehab due to excessive drug uses. Here it is. In late 1984, Finnish hard rock band Hanoi Rocks was on their second American tour and their first to reach California. The two gigs, meant to be held in Los Angeles, sold out in only 20 minutes. On the day they arrived in Los Angeles, Hanoi Rocks drummer Nicholas Razzle Dingley and other members of the band, with the exception of singer Michael Monroe, who was recovering from a fractured ankle, visited Vince Neil's home and spent the day in Redondo Beach. After partying for hours, Neil and Razzle decided to visit a local liquor store in Neil's Pantera. All right, so it wasn't a Corvette. Thought it was a Corvette. Neil, who was drunk, lost control of the car and hit an oncoming vehicle. The two occupants of the other car were seriously injured and suffered brain damage, and Dingley was killed. Neil was charged with vehicular manslaughter and driving under the influence of alcohol in connection with the crashes. Blood alcohol level was 0.17, well above California's legal limit at the time of 0.10. Legal limit now, I believe, in most states is 0.8. In September of 1985, Los Angeles Security Court Judge Edward Hinch Jr. sentenced Neil to 30 days in jail and 5 years probation. Neil was ordered to pay $2.6 million in restitution to the victims of the crash and undergo 200 hours of community service. Neil was paroled after serving 15 days in jail because he was good in jail. Good behavior. Motley Crue dedicated their third studio album, Theater of Pain, to Razzle. And then he was arrested in 2002 for punching a record producer in a nightclub parking lot. Neil was arrested again after he beat up a prostitute at the Moonlight Bunny Ranch. And in 2004, he was arrested for misdemeanor assault. Vince Neil. Happy birthday. Stay out of trouble, Vince. That's all we need. We don't need any more Vince Neil nonsense. Happy birthday, Vince. Don't celebrate too hard. Born on this day in 1968, Gary Coleman. That's right. What'd you talk about, Pugs? Gary Coleman. He died in 2010. See, Gary Coleman, I don't know if he was from where I'm from, but when I was really little, like Gary Coleman was on local Chicago TV. Like this is before Different Strokes. He was like famous locally in Chicago because he was a little kid in a bank commercial that was on TV all the time, and he said, and you can get a Hubert doll. I don't know. They gave out like stuffed lions, Hubert the lion or something. So that's the first time I remember Gary Coleman. And then he becomes like a massive star. But how did Gary Coleman die? I mean, he died young. He died in 1968. He was born. He died in 2010. How old was he? He was only 42 years old. Man, I interviewed Gary Coleman once. He how do I say this about Gary Coleman? He was an interesting guy. He had a chip on his shoulder, and his public persona was cute and cuddly and all that. But I think I interviewed him. He was in his mid-30s, and he had his constant companion with him. I guess he was framed as an assistant, but constant companion is probably better. And let's just say I wasn't aware of Gary Coleman's sexuality until that day. And it's just weird when Arnold Jackson, who you expect, what'd you talk about, Willis? When you get that guy in front of you and he's like a grown, I don't know. He dealt with a lot of that. He was perpetually, 12 years old in the eyes of everybody. So how did he die? He had a lot of he had a history of didn't he and Webster have that same thing? This is a weird thing that Hollywood did back in the days. They would get kids with these terrible diseases and they'd make them stars, especially if the disease had an effect of prolonging childhood, there was this girl. She was in all kinds throughout the 70s and 80s. She played a 15-year-old, she was 40. But she played a 15-year-old all through the 70s and all through the 80s. And because she had some sad disease. Gary Coleman had the same thing. On May 26, 2010, Coleman was admitted to Utah Valley Regional Medical Center in Provo, Utah in critical condition after falling down the stairs at his home and hitting his head, possibly after another seizure. He had a whole bunch of health issues. According to a hospital spokesman, Coleman was conscious and lucid the next morning, but his condition subsequently worsened. By mid-afternoon of May 27th, he was unconscious and on life support. He died at 12:05 p.m. on May 28th, 2010 at the age of 42. Gary Coleman seemed like he didn't seem like he had a very good life. If all you judge by is, well, he was famous at 10, who wants to be famous at 10? Being famous at 10 sucks. You want to be famous at 20. You want to be famous at 30. You don't want to be famous at 10. Famous at 10, you can't date supermodels when you're famous at 10. You can't drive super fast cars when you're famous at 10. You can't go to clubs and have people treat you like a superstar when you're famous at 10. It's all right, let's trot Gary out onto the red carpet and all the paparazzi and all the people screaming his name, and he's going to sign autographs, but then he's got to go home and go to bed. Didn't he also have a thing with Michael Jackson, or was that Webster? I think that was Webster. Yeah, Michael Jackson kind of. Emmanuel Lewis. Now I got to know about Emmanuel Lewis. I'm sorry, folks. I got to know about Emmanuel Lewis. Is Emmanuel Lewis alive or dead? I hope he's alive. I hope he's alive. Let's see. Emmanuel. Wow. How far has he fallen? You put Emmanuel in and his name doesn't even come up. You got to put the full Lewis. Okay. Emmanuel Lewis is alive. Good for him. Good for Emmanuel Lewis. Emmanuel Lewis is 50 years old. Look at that. Isn't that Hollywood though? Hollywood. It's like, hey, Gary Coleman's a big star. We need to get us another one of them. NBC's got Gary Coleman. And ABC's like, let's get us one of them. And they went and got Emmanuel Lewis. I think Emmanuel Lewis was cuter, though. Just as far as little kid actors go. Also born on this day in 1984, Cecily Strong from SNL. Oh, boy. I love me some Cecily Strong. She's awesome. She is funny. She is talented. And the coolest thing about Cecily Strong, she was like a super bad girl. Like when she was in high school and stuff, she was a bad girl. And the whole idea that she was a bad girl, but also she's like really funny and like really like kind of cute, but ooh, she was a bad girl. Just Google search Cecily Strong bad girl. Unwanted pregnancies, drug dealing, pot dealer. I mean, kicked out of school after school. Cecily Strong, I like her. She turned it around. Yeah, she's cool. So there you go, parents. If you've got a girl who's a bad girl, yeah, she could turn it around. She could become Cecily Strong. Born on this day in 1984. Happy birthday, Cecily Strong. Some deaths, a lot of deaths today. This is not the big day for people dropping dead. Derek Thomas died on this day in 2000. I remember this. I was actually bartending, and it was during football. I want to say it was on a Sunday, or maybe this was a Saturday, but whatever it was like championship weekend. And I was tending bar, and bar was crowded, and we were watching the games. And then all of a sudden, they broke in during one of the football broadcasts to announce that Derek Thomas. And if you don't know who Derek Thomas is, you might be too young to know this. Derek Thomas was one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I mean, you want to talk about the origin of the outside linebacker being a dominant position, whether you call it the edge rusher or he was the guy who sort of perfected that. Derek Thomas played for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was a monster. I think he only played in the league like 9 or 10 years. Pro Bowl all 10 years. The thing about Derek Thomas that I'll always remember is I think he still holds the record for most sacks in a game. He had a game where he had 7 sacks. That is dominant. He was actually driving on snowy roads. He was rushing to get to the airport for a flight that was going to take him to St. Louis for the Rams championship game. And he was going too fast for conditions in the snow, and he crashed, and he didn't die immediately. He died like a day later. But he was conscious, and they thought that he was on the mend. They knew that his injuries were such that he was never going to play football again. They knew that straight out. But he was being wheeled. I remember this. He was being wheeled into an examining room like the day after the accident. He was conscious, and he was all right. And he looked up at his mother, and he said, "I don't feel well." And he died just like that. He said, "I don't feel well." And his eyes rolled back in his head, and he suffered an embolism in his heart that killed him because of his legs. His legs were all messed up and from the accident, and apparently blood clots started. And that's Derek Thomas died on this day in 2000, one of the great Kansas City Chiefs of all time. Without question, the best defensive player to ever play in Kansas City Chiefs history. And they've had some players. You go back to the Super Bowl days of the merger and all that. They had some players. Derek Thomas, by far. Derek Thomas is probably the best linebacker of his era behind Lawrence. Well, is the same. Do I consider that the same era as Lawrence Taylor? Maybe. I think there might have been a little bit of overlap, but certainly Derek Thomas died on this day. And I think people forget what a great, posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame on his first try 5 years after his death. Boom. They said he's in. No questions there. Also died on this day. I remember this. My partner Kelly and I, we were at the Grammys. We were at the Grammys when this happened. Anna Nicole Smith died on this day in 2007. How did she die? Let's find out how Anna Nicole Smith died. I remember she was like remember she had a baby. She just had like a newborn baby too. Oh my God. That newborn baby's got to be, I don't know. And her son had just died, right? Wasn't that a thing? Like Anna Nicole Smith had a new baby, and then her teenage son had just died like days before or something. On the afternoon of February 8th, 2007, Smith was found unresponsive in room 607 at the Seminole Hard Rock Cafe and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. The wife of Smith's bodyguard, who was an emergency registered nurse, performed cardiopulmonary resuscitation for 15 minutes until the bodyguard took over. He had driven back to the hotel after being notified by his wife of Smith's condition, according to Seminole police. She died at 1:38 p.m. local time. Let's see here. Smith was rushed. She was still rushed to the hospital. Official copy of the autopsy report was publicly released on March 26th. Smith's death was ultimately ruled an accidental drug overdose of the sedative chloral hydrate that became increasingly toxic when combined with other prescription drugs in her system, specifically benzodiazepines, Klonopin, Ativan, Xerox, and Valium. She was heavily medicated. Well, I mean, Anna Nicole Smith already had issues with, drugs and all that stuff, but she was freaked out because of the death of her son, despite rumors of methadone use due to its involvement in the death of Smith's son. Yeah, her son had died days before. Perper only found methadone in her bile, indicating it was probably ingested 2 to 3 days prior to her death and therefore was not a contributing factor. The autopsy report indicates that abscesses on her buttocks, presumably from prior injections of vitamin B in the form, as well as human growth hormone, were contributory causes of death. Tests for illness were negative. It was reported that 8 of the 11 drugs in Smith's system, including chloral hydrate, were prescribed. Oh, yeah, remember Howard K. Stern? Prescribed to Howard K. Stern. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, there you go. I remember we were at the, that broke while Kelly and I were on the air at the Grammys doing our backstage interviews. Another sad day, like I said, sad day for Chiefs Nation. Marty Schottenheimer, coach, NFL coach, Kansas City Chiefs coached a number of teams. Wait a second. Now I got to make sure. Was he? Because I don't want to say that and then be wrong. He was Kansas City Chiefs coach, right? Yeah, Kansas City Chiefs for 10 seasons, Cleveland Browns and the Chargers. Marty Schottenheimer died on this day back in 2021. I apologize for like my heavy breathing and sniffling. Like I said, I'm battling a cold these last couple of days. And died on this day last year, Mary Wilson. Mary Wilson. She was one of the Supremes. She was one of the Supremes that wasn't Diana Ross, but she also wasn't the other one who we don't know. Like there was, the Supremes were 3 girls. It was Diana Ross and Mary Wilson, and then there was like a third girl, but that was mixed in. That was like there were different third girls, but it was the Supremes were always Diana Ross and Mary Wilson. I think, I don't know. She was one of the main Supremes that wasn't Diana Ross. Okay, let's take a look at what today is. Today is the National Day. What are we celebrating here? It's Safer Internet Day. Okay. It's National Boy Scouts Day because the American chapter of the Boy Scouts was founded today. And remember, Boy Scouts, we learned this a couple of days ago because it was the anniversary of the founding of the actual Boy Scouts. They're an English thing. The Boy Scouts were formed in England. And then on this day, they came to America. It's National Iowa Day. And you know what? Really take a moment, folks. Take a moment, at least go, Iowa. That's a thing. And then move on. Because Iowa gets no love. Iowa is, I mean, it's not quite like, Idaho. But, Iowa is one of those states. Iowa's a pretty cool state. And it gets absolutely no love. Nobody thinks about Iowa for anything except during presidential elections for a couple of weeks. That's it. The Iowa caucuses. That's like the only thing you can name. It's also National Kite Flying Day. Whatever that means. So go fly a kite, I guess. That's what today is. All right. Here's something for you. We'll give you a moment of joy, and then we'll get into all the things that are trending and the stuff that people are all talking about. And again, it's been a struggle sometimes to get a moment of joy for you. That is good. I don't know if this is good. I don't even know that this is necessarily joyful. But made me laugh. So it's Olympics. I know. I said that I wasn't going to be doing any crazy Olympic stuff, but here, this is an Olympic guy going down. He's a slalom skier, and make sure you have your sound turned up because he takes one to the balls. And who doesn't love watching people take one to the balls? Here you go.
The gate to the groin for Yannick Bertrand, and you could hear it.
Oh,
And if you're a man, you could feel it. Wow, watch this again. Oh, the Frenchman. Oh, monsieur. Wow, the boys took a beating on that one.
Yeah, they sure did. The
That
boys
guy needs a
took
hug.
beating. He needs a hug. All right, let's watch it again.
The gate
Hold
to
on.
the
All right, I think that's enough. There you go. That's our moment of joy because it's a Frenchman. You know, I mean, an American guy wouldn't have been our moment of joy. It's a Frenchman. We're talking about Channel 9 asks Vern Troyer passed away too. That's Mini-Me. Yeah, he's dead, but not today. He didn't die today. What Channel 9, what do you just Vern Troyer was a grown man. Vern Troyer wasn't a little kid. We were talking about Gary Coleman and Emmanuel Lewis. Come on, man. Yeah, Vern Troyer's dead. He was a crazy party animal, Vern Troyer. And why not? Why not? If you're Vern Troyer, your life has been hard. You get a little bit of fame when you're in your 30s or however old he was. Just go for it. Now, folks, when I tell you that there's not a whole lot of big news happening today, just a bunch of like small things, I think the number one thing trending in America for the last 24 hours is a pretty good example. Do you know what's trending? You know what everybody on the socials are talking about? Pot roast. That's right. Pot roast is trending because pot roast is being heavily debated. The argument over pot roast is apparently some Instagram food person was doing a fancy like lobster ravioli thing with all of those, with aioli, blah, 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 some fancy, stupid. I'm sure it's delicious, but as with all of those kinds of things that are delicious, you'll never get enough of it. Like, can I get a bucket of that, or are you just going to give me like one ravioli with a tiny piece of lobster? So that was some recipe was trending, and somebody said, I'm tired of these new recipes. Can somebody please do pot roast? And oh my God, it took off from there. Now we got millions of people tweeting about pot roast. Is pot roast old food? Is pot roast new? Is pot roast good food? Can we make the old food pot roast new food again? And there is literally a debate going on among these ridiculous foodies who are being all snobby, like pot roast, and then like millions more people, like for every 1,000 person, or for every one person that is saying that pot roast sucks, there's 1,000 people going, you suck. Pot roast is trending. By the way, I would like to cast my vote here publicly. Pot roast is awesome, man. Pot roast is awesome. And I don't get pot roast anymore. I haven't had pot roast, homemade pot roast, in probably 2 decades. Pot roast is so good. Actually, that's not true. My mom makes like a pot roast thing that I've probably had within the last 10 years. That's really good. You know who's good pot roast? And this is the only thing I get there, not because I'm snobby and don't want to order anything else, but because it's like the only place I can get good pot roast. Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel has some banging pot roast, boy. I'll tell you. And you want to know what the unsung star? There are 2 unsung. Sure, the cut of meat, whatever, it doesn't matter. Actually, it could be shoe leather. You just boil the crap out of it, or you crock pot the hell out of it. Whatever the meat is, it's going to be fine. It's about the gravy and all that. But you know what the unsung hero of pot roast is? Baby carrots. Oh, those little baby carrots. Oh, and the little diced onion, like the little leaves of onion. Oh, come on. I want pot roast so bad. But I'm on a stupid diet, and I don't think pot roast is on my diet. I could probably have pot roast if that's all I ate. Like if I just go, all right, I'm going to do 1,500 calories of pot roast tonight. I could probably have that. But then I'd have to make it, and I wouldn't have the energy to make it because I don't have any calories. All right. Pot roast, good or bad? Pot roast is good. April says, my kids don't care for it, but man, I love it. Your kids suck, April. No, I'm kidding. I just made pot roast last Thursday. April, you make pot roast again and invite me over for dinner because I need pot roast. I need pot roast. I need homemade pot roast. Somebody's got to make me pot roast. Hell, I'll give my address out if you people want to drop off pot roast. And I trust you people. I will eat your pot roast. Pot roast is good. Meatloaf, pot roast. Those are like two staples from childhood that I just love. Good meatloaf. I've always maintained that meatloaf is a trick for when I'm dating you. If you say I want to cook you dinner or whatever, I will say make me meatloaf. If you can't make meatloaf, all right, then we gotta have a conversation about where this relationship is going. And if you make me like a stupid sloppy meatloaf with too many breadcrumbs, or God forbid you put ketchup or red sauce on it, I don't want to know you. I do not want to know anyone who eats ketchup with meatloaf. Meatloaf is to be served with a brown gravy. Maybe you can have a little bit of a red thing on top, but you better have some brown gravy for me. Brown mushroom gravy. It's the only way meatloaf is acceptable to me. Jennifer says, hate meatloaf. My mother made it every week. Just the smell of it makes me ill. Oh, you don't know it. You don't know. Even obviously your mom made shit meatloaf, Jennifer. I'm sorry to break this to you because meatloaf, first of all, the greatest thing about meatloaf is you got to make an extra meatloaf. You got to have the meatloaf that you serve at the dinner table, and then you got to have a meatloaf in the refrigerator for sandwiches. Meatloaf sandwiches are awesome. Cold meatloaf oh. You people don't know. You anti-meatloaf contingent, you people just don't know. Trending today also, meatloaf and pot roast are trending together. Oh, she did make meatloaf that was half ketchup. You can't beat ketchup. That's a tap out. That's like, you don't put, what is it, a hamburger loaf? That is not what I want. I want meatloaf, boy. Meatloaf with some onions and maybe green peppers in there. April says, I don't care for it as a loaf. Our staple is meatloaf meatballs, and half my family only likes it covered in barbecue sauce. You're raising like a Mongol horde over there. What do you mean? First of all, I'm not going to argue with you. The shape is irrelevant. Meatballs are very good. I love meatballs, so I'm not going to shit on meatballs. Meatballs are great. I prefer meatloaf because I like to make the meatloaf sandwich the next day. That's all. And meatballs covered in barbecue sauce, aren't those like, isn't that just Swedish meatballs? Isn't that like a whole different thing? Jennifer says, my mom made vegetable nut loaf. Oh, God. No, thank you. No, thank you, Jen. Vegetable nut loaf? What held it together? Oh my God. Yes. Okay. You know what? If your mom is making vegetable nut loaf, then yeah, you can go ahead, knock yourself out. Use ketchup on that. But if I say, what do you want your favorite meal? What can I make you? Meatloaf. Let's see come on. Let's see what you got in the meatloaf, because meatloaf seems easy, but it's not. It is if you have the right recipe and you know how to make a real meatloaf. I've had meatloaf where people put way too many breadcrumbs in it, and it's just like, ugh, where's the meat in here? You can use like some breadcrumbs for seasoning in there, but it's got to have onions. It's got to have garlic. It's got to have, doesn't got to have green peppers, but sometimes green peppers in meatloaf is good. But don't use too many because then it gets too watery and it falls apart. All right, that's enough. Pot roast and meatloaf. Two very good things that apparently modern foodies consider to be old food. Jeff Glenn says, if you cook it in a loaf pan, then it's all soggy. Form loaves and cook on a flat pan so you get crust. I use 1.5-2 pounds of beef and make 2 loaves. All right, Jeff, maybe you and I should date, Jeff, because it sounds like you take the shit seriously. And that's all I require in a girl. Someone who takes meatloaf making seriously. Okay, a couple other things I require. But that's a big one. What is happening here other than pot roast being debated heartily? Nathan Chen, I know, I said like I wasn't going to be covering Olympic stuff, but Nathan Chen, who is an American figure skater, apparently he did something great. Good for him. You got like the greatest score for the figure skating short pro. Can you tell I'm already falling asleep? Nathan Chen shatters world record in breathtaking performance on the ice. The 22-year-old put himself in prime position to win his long-sought gold medal at the Beijing Winter Olympics after a world record-setting performance in the short program. Anybody see it? I didn't. Here's how little I care about it. I'm reading the story, and there was a link to the performance, and I actually hovered over the link going, do I want to spend like 5 minutes watching this? And I went, no, I do not. So congratulations, Nathan Chen. Good for you. I'm glad all your hard work paid off. It's just not my thing. just not. And it's not that it has never been my thing. I used to be a fan of the Winter Olympics. It's just, it feels like this Winter Olympics, it's this whole, just doesn't seem right. It just seems like, I don't know. China, first of all, doesn't it feel like every Olympics for the last couple of decades has been in China or some other godforsaken part of the world where I have no interest in visiting? It seems like, and I hate when the Olympics take place at 3:00 in the morning because it's on the other side of the world and then everything's on tape delay. Yes, I'm saying that if I'm going to watch the Olympics, all the winter ones have to be held in Lake Placid and all the summer ones have to be held somewhere in the central time zone. It's the only way it works out for me. I like to watch it live. Gambling is trending. Now, I'm not a degenerate gambler, but I've said this a couple of times now when the subject of gambling has come up recently, because gambling is taking the country by storm. Not here in Texas, not here in Texas. We do not have the legalized sports gambling here yet. I say yet because it's coming. It's coming before legalized weed. And we can debate on what's worse for you, and you'll be stupid if you think that weed is worse for you than legalized gambling, because it's just not. I mean, legalized. I've got a bunch of friends, and I call them friends loosely. They're like people that I follow, and they follow me back on Twitter. Typically, these people that I'm talking about are in my White Sox Twitter family. I'm a big player. I like to consider myself a bit of a player in the White Sox Twitter community. Got a lot of White Sox Twitter fans, and we talk about White Sox baseball endlessly. So, if you're not into that, don't bother following me. But okay, so there's this girl. She's like 20, 21. She is a diehard White Sox fan. She's really good. She knows baseball inside and out, and she's really smart, and she's a fun Twitter follow. But she is a degenerate gambler. And every single night she posts up all of her bets on like PointsBet or, Bet. See, there's all these betting companies that we don't know here in Texas because Texas doesn't have it legal, but all over the country, they're like these massive things. And it seems to me like this generation of 20-year-olds is they're all going to be bankrupt by the time they're 30. They bet on everything. Look, I know that legalized sports betting is a big boon to local economies and states that have enacted these new laws that allow you to like bet constantly on your phone using apps and all that kind of stuff. I know that they're bringing in tax dollars, and I know that theoretically that money's supposed to go to schools and roads, but it won't. It won't. It'll go to summer homes for state legislature. That's all. It's not going to, it never does. Toll roads never get paid for. That money never goes to the lottery, all that stuff, whatever. But it is something. Freedom. I mean, if you want to be a degenerate gambler, if you make $200 a week, working at a grocery store, and you want to gamble your entire paycheck at 20 years old away every week, I guess more power to you, but I don't think that's a good long-term plan for you. And so anyway, gambling is trending today because this is like the first Super Bowl where all of these states in America have legalized gambling. And they're saying that it's going to be the biggest day of gambling in the history of gambling in this country, because states like, New York and Illinois and California and all these big populated states, they all have legalized sports gambling now. And 31 million Americans to bet on the Super Bowl, gambling group estimates. A record 31.5 million Americans plan to bet on this year's Super Bowl, according to estimates released Tuesday by the Gambling Industry's National Trade Group. The American Gambling Association forecasted over $7.6 billion are going to be waged on Sunday's Pro Football Championship game. The amount of people planning to bet is up 35% from last year, and the estimated amount of money being bet is up 78% from last year. These are all new records. Americans have never been more interested in legal sports wagering, said Bill Miller, the group's president and CEO. The growth of legal options across the country not only protects fans and the integrity of games and bets, but also puts illegal operators on notice that their time is limited. When the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals begin the game Sunday evening in the Rams' home stadium, 30 states plus Washington, D.C. will offer legal sports gambling. 30 states. Since last year's game, 45 million additional people will be able to bet on the Super Bowl because their states have legalized sports betting over the past year. Arizona, Connecticut, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, North Dakota, South Dakota, Washington, Wisconsin, and Wyoming among them. The Association of Legalized Sports Gambling predicts that 18.2 million American adults will place traditional sports wagers online. 18.5 million plan to bet casually with friends or as part of a pool. 76% say it's important for themselves to bet through a legal operator. 55% plan to bet on the Rams, with 45% backing the Bengals. FanDuel, the official odds provider for the Associated Press. I just watched a thing last night, 30 for 30, The Legend of Jimmy the Greek, which is interesting that this is coming up. Jimmy the Greek, if you don't remember him, he was a bookmaker. He was a bookie. He was a professional gambler who was brought on the CBS NFL Today back in the 70s and through the 80s to basically predict what team would beat what team on any given Sunday afternoon. But because Pete Rozelle in the NFL was so afraid of sports gambling, there were all these rules that Jimmy the Greek had to adhere to. Like there were no point spreads, couldn't say no numbers. Like he could never say that they'll win by 3.5, or so he would say things like, well, the only advantage in this team would be that they're the home team. So, that would be the advantage. Well, typically in sports betting, the home team advantage is like 3 points. That's a field goal. Or he would say things like, he would go into the breakdown of the game and he'd go, I don't know. I think this game might come down to a field goal, which he didn't actually, he just meant 3 points. Like those were, and it was so, they were so crazy about what Jimmy the Greek couldn't say back in those days. And now the NFL has completely reversed course because of FanDuel. Because of, other companies like FanDuel. They have leaned hard into sports betting. 30 states. Texas is one of them that doesn't have it. But like I said, it's coming here to Texas. You're going to be able to pull up an app on your phone and blow all of your money in an instant. You don't have to go to an off-track betting parlor. You don't have to go to Vegas. You don't have to do it illegally. You can just sit in your car on your lunch break and blow all of your money. And the things you can bet on with these, it is kind of fun. I mean, I'm not a degenerate gambler. I'm not a gambler. I don't like to gamble. Maybe I'll participate in a pool, right? Something like that. But I'm not ever going to pull up the FanDuel app and bet on what color Gatorade or how long. Like the prop bets are fun, but like how long will the national anthem go? I'll give you an example. I complain about this all the time because I'm a big sports radio fan. So I feel that sports radio in my hometown of Chicago has been changed forever by the institution of sports gambling. Every guest is no longer someone, giving X's and O's breakdowns or a reporter who has a take on something. Every guest seems to be some gambling guy who is going to give you the line on any specific game. It's just so tiring, and it takes the fun out of sports radio, and it has changed the way I, as a sports fan, listen to sports radio now. I'm finding myself listening way more to the ticket than I ever did because the ticket doesn't do the sports gambling thing because it's not legal here yet. My favorite sports station, The Score in Chicago, which covers all my teams, I still enjoy some of the content, but so much of it is like, oh God, I got to turn this off. I can't. I can't do. But one of the big bets this year, and this is how weird it's gotten in sports radio. So I listened to recently a 30-minute conversation on a sports radio station in Chicago, not about the Super Bowl, but about the history of the national anthem singer. Why? Because this national anthem singer, I don't even know who it is, who's singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl, has done this before. And the average time is like 1 minute and 37 seconds. And why is that important? Because people bet on how long the national anthem will go. That's one of the big prop bets that's being offered. And this sports radio show actually sat there and listened to this national anthem singer sing other anthems. Well, here he is at a Pacers game in 2017 singing the national anthem. And then you listen to it and they're like, okay, that's 137. Okay, well, this is from last year when he sang the national anthem at a Yankees game. Okay, that one's 139. He went 2 seconds more. So how much can we expect him to sing at the Super Bowl? It's ridiculous like that. It's fun and it's silly, I guess, in small doses, but that's all sports radio is. It has been ruined in places where sports betting is legal. The Super Bowl is one of the most perilous times of the year for people with gambling problems. And that's the other thing they always do. Every commercial on these sports radio stations is a commercial for a betting app. A different betting app, a different place to bet, a different way to bet, every single commercial. And the reason sports radio stations in these markets are leaning into it is because there's so much advertising revenue to be made by commercial sponsors. It's not car dealers anymore. It's betting app, betting app, betting app, betting app. It's not guys in commercial breaks giving updates on, players. It's dudes from sports books and, hey, I'm Vinny. Give me a call at 1-800 and I'll give you the best line on all today's bet. It's all that stuff. Oh, it's so tiring. I won't be betting it. I won't be betting any money on the Super Bowl. I'm certainly not in a position to do that. All right. Also, betting on the Olympics. It's another thing. People are betting on the Olympics. The Olympics is trending. Why? Well, because apparently the Olympics are going on. How about a medal count? The medal count. Medal count for so far for the Winter Olympics there in China. Where is it? Beijing? I don't know. Well, the good old US of A ain't doing so good. We're in 12th place currently. We have no golds. We have 4 silvers, and we have 1 bronze for a total of 5 medals. The top 3, the Netherlands. The Netherlands are in 3rd place, and they should be because it seems like there's winter stuff going on there. The Netherlands have 3 gold, 3 silver, 1 bronze. Norway is number 2 in the medal count. They have 3 gold, 1 silver, and 4 bronze for a total of 8. And leading the medal count this early part of the Olympics, the Russian Olympic, it's ROC, it's Russia, but I think it stands for Russian Olympic Committee. I think that's what they're calling themselves now. Russia is leading the medal count with 2 gold, 3 silver, and 5 bronze for 10. 10 total medals. The United States has 5. Pick it up, boys. Pick it up. Not that I care. I honestly don't care. Patriotism dictates that I root for our boys and girls more than others, but, I can't be bothered to watch. I can't be bothered to watch what is being called a perfect skating routine by Nathan Chen, which is like 3.5 minutes. I can't be bothered to watch that, so I can't get all caught up in. Kanye is trending again. It's another one of these Kanye days. Why is Kanye trending? Well, because he removed all the pictures of Kim and the kids from his social media. What does that mean? I don't know. He's such a weird guy. Kanye has removed all pictures and videos of Kim Kardashian and the children they share together from his social media platforms. Why? Because he's Kanye. He probably wanted to trend today, so he knew that he could do something like that. Why would you remove the kids, though? Like, I get why you'd remove Kim because, you're angry, because she's divorcing you and she's running around with Pete Davidson, which, again, I won't go into, but I don't get it. Okay. Why would you remove your kids? You don't remove your kids from your social media, Kanye, unless, of course, you're like because remember Kanye last week had a problem with one of his kids, Northwest, the oldest, having a TikTok account. And he was like, I don't want him having a TikTok. And Kim's like, he can have a ticket. So they're fighting over that. So maybe he's leaning into the let's not exploit our kids thing. And maybe that's why he took him. I guess that's a reasonable reason for Kanye, a very public individual, to take down pictures of his kids. But I don't know. I don't think it's that thoughtful. I think it's more of just Kanye throwing a hissy fit because that's what he does. Racist Tesla. Oh, God. Here we go. You mean to tell me that a crazy billionaire born and raised in South Africa is a racist? I don't know. They're not saying Elon Musk is racist, but they're saying that the actual hierarchy and the way that they deal with issues among workers inside Tesla's California plant is racist. Let's see what this is about. Last week, former Tesla employee Kaylin Barker filed a lawsuit against the electric car maker for allegedly disregarding her complaints of racial discrimination, saying that, quote, being a black worker at a Tesla's renowned California factory is to be forced to step back in time and suffer painful abuses reminiscent of the Jim Crow era. Okay. 25-year-old who is black and gay claims a white coworker at the company's Lathrop plant called her the N-word and assaulted her with a hot grinding tool. No, I'm not saying that her calling you an N-word is not a problem. I'm just saying that I think you being assaulted with a hot grinding tool is probably what you should have led with. That seems like the more immediate threat to you than, some idiot calling you a bad racial slur. Let's see here. After Barker complained to Human Races about the incident, Tesla allegedly retaliated by withholding her wages. Barker's civil suit is one of multiple cases in recent months to paint a disturbing picture of a hostile work environment for women and people of color at the clean energy giants' factories. And it comes a mere 4 months after a jury awarded another former employee of Tesla, Owen Diaz, nearly $137 million over racism that he encountered in the workplace, which included coworkers hurling racial epithets and telling him to go back to Africa. I mean, that would probably hurt. Like, you don't want people doing that. That's like, oh man, you suck. You're a racist. I hate being around racists. And don't go, those names are terrible. And I'm not going back to Africa. I was never in Africa. I'm an American citizen. But $137 million for that? Ooh. I mean, you got to say, was it worth it? You'd probably go, yeah. Thank God those people were racist. $137 million. I'll put up with any kind of racism for $137 million. Now, that doesn't mean Tesla's going to pay that, because they're going to probably say, like, well, that's not fair. We're going to appeal. And who knows what will happen as it goes through the court system. But still, that is crazy. Now Tesla is facing a civil rights complaint from the California regulators over employees' accusations of pervasive racial discrimination. Last month, the California Department of Fair Employment issued a notice of cause finding, who cares? We should all care. The agency gave notice that based upon the evidence collected, it believes that it has grounds to file a civil complaint against Tesla, the filing stated. As for Diaz's multi-million-dollar case, that's the guy who got $137 million. As for Diaz's multi-million-dollar case, Tesla report said the company does not believe that the facts and law justify the verdict, and that it has requested a retrial or reduction in the jury's award. Okay, all right. If I'm the Diaz guy and they gave me $137 million, I'm looking at a retrial where, hell, I could lose. I could lose it all. But they're also saying a reduction. All right, let's come to the table. The bar is set at $137 million. How much do you want to give me? I'll go as low as $10 million. I'll come down as low as $10 million just to make it all go away. I'll walk away. Give me the $10 million. I'll walk away. I'll have a wonderful life on that $10 million. But, you don't want to just take that. That's your floor. That's you'd be like $10 million. That's where I'll walk away. That's where it's now, maybe they come back $137 million. Maybe they come back and they say, how about $50 million? Okay, that's fine. I don't want to I don't want to gamble on another court going, oh, that's a crazy amount of money. Here, have 50 grand. No. I want it in the millions. I mean, if they're giving it out and if they're willing to negotiate, why not sit down with them and go, all right. Sorry. Harm reduction. This is a weird one that's trending today. We talked about this in New York. Harm reduction is trending. And what is harm reduction? Well, the Justice Department, now the United States Justice Department, we covered a story a couple of months back about how New York City in November had opened up these the junkie stations, if you will, for junkies, places that junkies could go and they could fix up and they could do their drugs. And if they overdosed, there would be somebody there that could save their life and they would get clean needles and it wouldn't be, it seems not like the greatest thing. I mean, if you really think about it, it forces you to ask the question, what is the primary concern about the drug epidemic in this country? Is the concern that people are dying, or is the concern that you just can't do drugs? I mean, what is the concern? This is an attempt to cut down on the amount of people who die and the crimes that are committed and the spread of disease through dirty needles and all that kind of thing. I don't really have a position on this yet. I don't know. It's interesting. Harm reduction policies for drug addicts gain traction. The Justice Department of the United States, and remember, it was just New York who did it, but now this is the Justice Department. The Justice Department is reportedly evaluating safe injection sites, a haven where people can use heroin and other illegal drugs in a bid to avoid fatal overdoses, though it is still considering the appropriate guardrails around the sites. The position is a major reversal from the Trump administration's position in efforts to combat a safe consumption site in Philadelphia, raising concerns among some critics who say it will encourage illicit drug use and addiction. Okay, so my problem with that is it's almost like if you teach kids in school about safe sex, it will only encourage them to have sex, which is ridiculous because hormones encourage kids. You can't, it doesn't matter. Kids, it's not like you're going to go, hey, kids, just so you know, don't have sex because it's bad. There is no 13, 14, 15-year-old on the planet that's going to go, well, okay, my body's going crazy and I just really need to do this. But okay, since you said, I mean, that seems thoughtless, really. Is this a cruel joke? Drug overdose deaths are at their highest recorded levels. The Department of Justice should focus on stopping traffickers instead of creating more demand for the product. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, Republican, tweeted late Monday. Let's see. New York City forged ahead with a safe consumption site in November. That's the story that I remember talking about here. Amid lingering court battles over the sites, which already operate in Canada, Australia, and Europe. The sites are part of a concept known as harm reduction, in which officials try to manage the risks from certain behaviors instead of relying on outright prohibitions. So we will see. So harm reduction is trending. We'll see if that becomes a thing. I don't know. You know, I was reading something yesterday about the opioid epidemic. Do you realize that the opioid epidemic that, we've heard so much about these past few years, do you realize that it's almost an exclusively American phenomenon? 80% of the opioids that are abused in the world are abused in the United States of America. And it's some of the reasons, I don't want to go into it because it's not necessarily a trending topic, although it does sort of go hand in hand with this as to why we have so many addicts out there running around. It was because we're the only country in the world that allows drug manufacturers to advertise on television, as opposed to the rest of the world where drug manufacturers, the pushers are doctors. You'll go to a doctor and a doctor will say, well, this is the drug that's best for you. This is, here it's all these, people flying kites in fields. If you want to feel good and fly a kite in a field, take this drug. Ask your doctor. Those are like the most insidious words in advertising history. Ask your doctor. And that's why here we are all these years later. We're the country where everybody's addicted to opioids because 80% 80% of the opioids consumed is here in the United States. All right, but we move on. I mean, that's a problem, and now we got to deal with it. So, and prohibition isn't gonna, you just stop doing that. Okay, they're not. A junkie is not gonna stop. A junkie is addicted to it. Let's get to the root of why they're addicted to it, and let's work from there instead of just throwing everybody in jail. Ugh. Let's see what else is trending here. American Express is trending because American Express has announced that they are now going to start doing checking accounts, digital checking accounts online, offering an American Express debit card. So if that's your thing, there you go. GOP kink is trending. This is a funny one. GOP kink. So some guy who is running for a governor in Oregon, right? He's a Republican, that's why GOP kink. Oregon mayor, he's a mayor in Oregon. Oregon mayor and favorite in the governor's race and his wife are outed as swingers, and he's totally fine with that. So we got if you're as plugged into Oregon politics, which is to say I'm not even in the slightest bit. Hold on, we'll find this. What's this guy's name? The news of Mayor Pulliam and his wife Mackenzie Pulliam were just outed as swingers makes his the most compelling candidacy of the 2022 elections. Small town Oregon mayor and Republican gubernatorial candidate admits he and his wife were swingers. That's it. A Republican candidate in the packed Republican primary for Oregon governor has been forced to admit he was a swinger after his posts on a private Facebook group were leaked ahead of the race. Stan Pulliam, who is also the mayor of his hometown of Sandy, Oregon, told his local paper that he and his wife of 12 years, Mackenzie, ultimately decided that the lifestyle, if you use lifestyle, if you use if you're like using the proper terminology, you're kind of into it. Ultimately decided that the lifestyle wasn't for us, but that he is not ashamed of the decisions they made in the privacy of their own home. In all fairness, this is like 10 years ago when they were, newly married. The 40-year-old told the Willamette Week that he and his wife, Mackenzie, explored mutual relationships with other couples for a brief period of time. Several years ago, Mackenzie and I, as a couple, explored relationships with others for a brief period of time before we ultimately decided to focus solely on each other, our marriage, and our family. He expounded in a statement sent to the press. Pulliam was pushed to speak out about his unusual married life after Facebook posts and a photo from Portland's erotic ball in 2011 surfaced. In it, the couple talk about being excited to join the swinging community, and he even comments on illicit photos of others. So, this is a gotcha story. Oh, look what the kind of sex this candidate is into. And, he's supposed to be a family values Republican. And, stop it. The married couple, they decided to do whatever they wanted. This shouldn't be public. Shame on you for making it public. I don't know how two people in a committed, I was going to say monogamous, but it ain't monogamous. Two people in a committed, seemingly loving relationship, well, leave them alone. Who cares? Why do you care? Well, you're the weirdo for delving into this. And that's why Oregon kink or GOP kink is trending. Murder Mystery 2. Hey, for you fans of really stupid movies, Adam Sandler is making Murder Mystery 2. And that seems to be a hot story today. He and Jennifer Aniston, who starred in the original Murder Mystery, I never even heard of this movie. I guess it was a straight to Netflix kind of a deal. Seems like all of Adam Sandler's stupid movies are now just going straight to Netflix. And that's not to say that every Adam Sandler movie is a stupid movie, because he has shown that he can do good stuff. It's just I'm done with him talking in a funny voice or whatever. But they're making, apparently Murder Mystery was a hit on Netflix. And him and Jen and him, I was reading this article about it. I clicked on it and I started to read it. That's a weird coupling. Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston are like really close friends. Like, not romantic. That's not what I'm not suggesting that. But they are like buddies. Like their families are buddies. Or I guess Jen doesn't have a family. And whatever. It's just an odd coupling of two friends who made movies together, and now they're making another one, and good for them. Let's see here. NBA trade deadline is trending. The Blazers have made a move that upsets me as a Bulls fan because I really wanted Larry Nance Jr. on the Bulls, but apparently that's not going to happen. Breaking: Portland has agreed to trade CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell to the Pelicans. The Blazers will receive in return Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nicole Alexander-Walker, and Didi Louzada, plus a future first-round pick and 2 future second-round picks. Oh, my God. They must have really wanted Nance Jr. and C.J. McCollum, and not so much Tony Snell, but I'm definitely... So there you go. That's why that's happening. Okay, so the Oscar nominations came out, but I figure we'll end the show going through those, so I'm going to jump over that even though it's next up here on the list. Teddy Mellencamp is trending. I did not know who Teddy Mellencamp is, which is weird because I love her dad, John Mellencamp. And yeah, turns out she's John Mellencamp's daughter. She's on that Big Brother. Yeah, you guys watch Big Brother, the CBS show Big Brother? I don't watch that show. I've never seen that show. It doesn't, I don't know. I'm not big on reality shows. But Celebrity Big Brother, whenever it's in season, as they say, it just dominates the primetime Twitter sphere. It's just everybody's talking about it. So that Teddy Mellencamp is still trending. Teddy Mellencamp, the daughter of roots rocker, Midwestern icon John Mellencamp. Teddy Mellencamp is trending because she says she gained 10 pounds on Celebrity Big Brother. Yeah, that's what's passing as news today. There you go. Josh Newman, 22-year-old skateboarder and YouTube sensation with millions and millions of subscribers. Josh Newman has died. He was among 4 people that were killed in a plane crash in Iceland. He was in Iceland shooting a commercial for a Dutch fashion brand when the plane crashed into a lake. He's been missing for 4 days, but they found the plane in the bottom of the lake. Let's see here. What else do we have? Church of Latter-day Saints is trending. That's the Mormons, right? Yeah, I think it's the Mormons. Church of Latter-day Saints is trending because one of their youth pastors was he got together with a bunch of other Mormons, I guess, and he was like giving a speech, what I don't know what they do. They probably do some praying, and then dude says some stuff, and people are like, "Yeah, he's saying stuff," and then they go eat cake and drink coffee or whatever. But at this thing, he started taking questions, and somebody asked, and I didn't know about this, but somebody asked the question regarding the Church of Latter-day Saints policy on black men becoming not even black people, just black men, because they ain't letting black women be anything. So so you got to know the history. Okay, so when John Smith, I believe that's the guy's name. Do I have that right? Let me make sure I have it. Whoever the founder of the Mormon religion was, the guy who's like the Jesus of Mormonism or whatever. When the religion or the faith, whatever it is, when it was founded, John Smith had a lot of black friends. He had a lot of black friends, and he made a lot of his black friends priests in the Mormon church. He had no problem with, being on equal footing with black people. But then, like a couple of years later, Brigham Young took over as the head of the church, and Brigham Young also had no problem with black dudes being priests in the Church of Latter-day Saints. But then, like, a new guy came in like 20 years later, and he said that he got all racist, he got all crazy racist, and black men they were allowed in the church. They were allowed to pay and all that stuff, but black men were not allowed to be priests or fathers or whatever in the church until 1978. So for 80 years, there was no, even though the founder of the religion was very upfront about it. Black dudes are cool. Black dudes are my friends. This is my best friend. He's a black dude. He's like second in command in the church. And that's back then what it was. But then those dudes died and some new dudes took over and they got real racist with it. And it started to just become, you gotta be white and all this kind of stuff. So this guy at this group meeting was asked a question about why it took so long, 1978, for black men to be allowed to be priests again. I don't even know if I'm using the right word. I should read it, but it's boring to read. I'll just wax poetic. I'm sorry. Ethan Crumbley's parents are in court for the shooting, Oxford, Michigan school shooter. All right, not going to be distracted by that. So he was asked a question like, why weren't black guys allowed to be priests in the Mormon church? And he went into this whole thing where he said, like, isn't the better question why? Here, I'll get you. Here you go. This I want to get right. Hell, I'll just read it. An international young men leader for the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints apologized Monday for statements about black people he made Sunday night during a regional fireside in Alpine, Utah. Brother Brad Wilcox, second counselor in the Young Men General Presidency and a professor of ancient scripture at Brigham Young University in Provo, posted the apology on his official church leadership Facebook page. My dear friends, I made a serious mistake last night and I'm truly sorry. Brother Wilcox wrote, the illustration I attempted to use about the timing of the revelation on the priesthood for black members was wrong. I've reviewed what I said and I recognize that what I'd hoped to express about trusting God's timing did not come through as I'd intended. To those I offended, especially my dear black friends, I offer my sincere apologies and ask for your forgiveness. I am committed to doing better. All right, there's an apology. If you demand an apology, that's an all right one. Members of the Young Men General Presidency carry the title of brother. Brother Wilcox spoke Sunday night to a fireside for 3 stakes. Stakes is like an organization of like men. So he spoke to 3 stakes. And, a stake is a regional grouping of between 5 to 16 congregations. So it was a big group of people in the room. Known for his talks to youth and for widely viewed addresses on the atonement, grace, and his recent church General Conference. Oh, come on. Nobody cares about this stuff. What did he say? He spoke specifically about the question regarding the history of the church's past ban on black men holding the priesthood and receiving temple blessings that were available to others. He challenged the framework of the questions. So he was questioned about that, but why were black people not allowed? And he answered, now, sadly, you live in a time where a lot of people get uptight about priesthood issues. One of the most glorious things we have in the church, and yet people want to sit and fight about it and get uptight about it, is I don't mean to oversimplify a complex issue. I sure think we made it a little harder than it needs to be, he said, referencing the question he received on the issue. Maybe we're asking the wrong questions. Maybe instead of saying, why did the blacks have to wait until 1978? Maybe what we should be asking is, why did the whites and other races have to wait until 1829? 1,829 years we waited. Why did the Gentiles have to wait until after the Jews? And why did everybody? So basically, he dodged the question by going, well, what about white people? So Brother Wilcox is in trouble. So that's why Church of Latter-day Saints is trending. Took a long time to get to that, but I don't know. I'm sorry, folks. I don't have a lot of energy today. I am beat down by this cold. Nick Cannon is trending because someone sent him a condom vending machine because he's had 8 kids now. And he had 4 kids in 1 year. 4 kids in 1 year by a bunch of different women. I remember when something like that used to be a scandal. Now he's like on America's favorite primetime contest show. Right? What is Nick? I don't even know. Like, I barely know who Nick Cannon is. Like he was married to Mariah Carey and they've got a couple of kids. So I know that. That's like all I know about Nick Cannon. But before that, like, was he a singer? Was he like a performer? Because now, like, I think he's got a radio show and I think he hosts like one of those dancing shows or singing shows or so. I don't even know what this guy's deal is other than he's got a lot of kids and somebody sent him a condom dispenser. Like, use a condom. To which he said, it's a funny joke, but every one of my children I wanted. And good for him. But man, 8 is a lot, and 4 in 1 year. Holy cow. Yikes. I mean, if you got the money, and he's got that Mariah Carey money. So, he can support all 8 kids on the money Mariah Carey probably gives him for the 2 kids that they share. And then he's got good jobs. He's got jobs that pay him something. So I guess if you can afford them, have them. But how can you possibly dedicate the appropriate amount of time to a child if there's like 8 of them and you're working all the time? I don't know. Look, I got one. I got one and I'm good. And I just don't want to screw the one up. I'm all in on the one. All in on the one kid. That kid's got to be awesome. If he screws up, I got nothing. I'll die alone and broke. But I got the one kid, and we need to do whatever we can to make him a success. Because somebody's got to change my diapers when I'm an 80-year-old heroin addict. Carvana Tower is trending. This is a story out of where is this? Oh, it's Skokie, which is a northern suburb of Chicago. So, Carvana, the big, you can buy a car online and we'll drop it off at your house. And then in the commercial, they have like these depictions of what appears to be like a giant car vending machine where, it looks like a vending machine, but there's cars in it. Well, that's a real thing. Carvana actually is building these vehicle vending machines all over. And there are these big glass towers with all these shelves, and each shelf has a car on it. And, when you order your car online, I guess they don't just bring it to your house anymore. You can go to one of these Carvana Towers, they're called. So they're trying to build one of these Carvana Towers in Chicago's north suburbs, Skokie. And the people are going nuts about it because it's apparently in the migrating path of a bird. But it looks awesome. I mean, it looks really cool. It looks like something like futuristic. Like car dealerships used to take off all this land, right? I mean, you'd have all of these cars, giant parking lots with all these cars. Now, the trucks, you buy the car online, the truck delivers the car to this giant vending machine, and then then it's like, this one is 14 towers, some of them are 14 floors, some of them are 8. And as it turns out in reading the story that there are a couple of others in the Chicago area. I don't know where else they are. But man, I'm all for it. Screw them birds. This is cool. This is people are like, it's unsightly. You're driving down the road and you see this big lit up neon glass box filled with unsightly. That sounds awesome. What are you talking about, unsightly? That seems like something really futuristic and really cool. So that's why that's trending. That's why Carvana Tower is trending. All right, should we get into the Oscars? Really, that's about it. Let me do a quick look and see if anything new is trending that I've missed out here in the last hour and a half. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Oscars. And oh my God, I used to love the Oscars, and I so don't care about the Oscars anymore. I didn't watch it last year. Probably not going to watch it this year. And the only reason that I think that anybody cares anymore about the Oscars is because maybe we like specific celebrities and we root for them. And now it becomes like by the way, you can bet on the Oscars too. That's another thing you can bet on. That's if you're, gambling is taking the country by storm. You can bet on Oscars if you want. Let's see what else is trending here. Did I miss anything? Anything new? Ben Simmons is trending. Did they finally offload him? Did the Sixers finally get rid of Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons looks set to remain on the sidelines until at least June, and he has only himself to blame, according to the Philadelphia 76ers' Joel Embiid. Okay, it looks like there was a deal that was going to send James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers from the Brooklyn Nets. And in return, they'd have gotten Ben Simmons, the very troubling Ben Simmons, and Seth Curry. But it looks like that deal fell through. So, okay, Ben Simmons not going to play. Blazers, we talked about that. The Blazers are trending. Best Picture. Larry Nance Jr. We talked about all this stuff. The Batman is a true detective story, equal parts intense and sad. Robert Pattinson tells The Hollywood Reporter. I'm excited about the Batman movie, the new one, The Batman, not Batman Returns, not Dark Knight, not Rise of the Dark Knight, The Batman. Okay, Bitfinex, don't know what that is. Ben Simmons trending. We already talked about that. Gerald Williams, former Yankee, died. Okay, that's not pot roast. There it is. Pot roast is still hanging on. Pot roast. A heated debate is underway as people fight for their love or hate of pot roast. Peloton is trending. John Williams. We talked about John Williams. It's his birthday. Kristen. A bunch of actors and actresses are trending because they may or may not have been snubbed during the Oscars. All right, let's get into the Oscars. So the Oscars were not the nominations: Best Film, Best Actor, Best Actress. We'll only do those ones. We'll figure out. And I don't know. As it turns out, I looked through them. I've seen a number of these, so I'm not as blind as I have been in years past. Turns out that well, now, I mean, they're taking serious looks at movies that are on streaming platforms like Netflix and, Prime and all that kind of stuff. Whereas they didn't. They took a while to actually acknowledge that those are actually films. But with the pandemic and all that stuff, people aren't going to movie theaters. So, what are you going to have? What are you going to have? Are you going to honor a bunch of movies that nobody saw? People are only seeing movies on Netflix now. People are only seeing movies on Prime. All right, so here's a list. Best Picture nominations for this year's Oscar Awards. Belfast. It's there. It's available for me to see, but got to be honest, I'm an Irish Catholic. I don't really want to see a movie about the capital of the Northern Protestants. That's supposed to be great, though. Kenneth Branagh film, Belfast. Best Picture nominated. Coda. I don't know what Coda is. I've never heard of Coda. I have no clue what Coda is. Also nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscars. I'm happy about this one because I love this movie. And, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not this was a good movie. And I think it's a good movie. So it's nice to see this is validation for me saying that this was a good movie. Don't Look Up. The Adam McKay An Asteroid is Coming to Destroy the Earth has been nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscars. I liked Don't Look Up. I really did. I thought it was funny. I thought it was interesting. And I thought it was very... there was more going on than just the story. They were making a commentary on the state of things, the state of political discourse in this country. It's a deeper movie than I think most people just thought, isn't it a disaster movie? How come it's a disaster movie, but it's not like other disasters? Because it's a little bit different, because it's Adam McKay. There's a social point of view to it. It's a commentary on how we're all idiots, okay? That's basically what this movie is about. We are all idiots, and the best thing that could happen to us is if an asteroid just crashed into the planet and killed us all because we have peaked. Don't Look Up is also nominated for Best Picture. Drive My Car. I don't know what that is, but it seems like the names associated with it are Japanese, so I'm guessing it's a foreign film, but it is nominated for Best Picture. Dune is nominated for Best Picture. I loved Dune. I watched Dune twice over the same weekend. Dune was really good. Dune is the movie where I finally decided, okay, Timothy Chalamet's got something. I could see why everybody's talking about Timothy Chalamet. I could see why he was good. He was good. The whole movie Dune was really good. Don't know if it's the best movie of the year, but it's good. I'll tell you what it is. Here's what it is. It is the best looking movie of the year. That movie is spectacular. That movie just looks tremendous. Also nominated for Best Film of the Year, King Richard, which what was King Richard? Was King Richard on HBO Max? I'm not sure. Maybe it was on Netflix. King Richard is Will Smith starring as the father of Venus and Serena Williams. And it's about how Venus and Serena Williams' father sort of molded them to become, the greatest tennis player, whatever. They're both good. But although I remember when Venus was really good, like Venus was like the one. Venus, I don't know if Venus is older, but Venus was around first. And then she had a little sister named Serena. And Venus was just dominating. And then at some point, we all forgot about Venus, and Serena became like the greatest female tennis player of all time. I watched King Richard. More to the point, I watched 45 minutes of King Richard. And I went, yeah, I got it. And I stopped watching. So I don't know if that's the best picture of the year, at least not in my book. I was like, yeah, I got it. Good story. Nice story. I know how this plays out. I know what they go on to be really bad. I get it. This is good. This is interesting. Will Smith is terrific. Will Smith is terrific in everything. Didn't really love the movie. King Richard, the story of Venus and Serena Williams' father, is nominated for Best Picture. Here's one that makes me very happy. I haven't seen it. I have not seen this movie yet, but I am waiting to see it. I can't wait to see this movie. Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza. Licorice Pizza was also nominated here for the Best Picture of the Year. I have a running joke with my kid. Every weekend I have him. He's like, let's go see a movie. And I'll say, let's go see Licorice Pizza. He didn't want to see that. And honestly, I wouldn't take him to see it, but it's the movie that I want to see. I'm like, all right. So Licorice Pizza nominated. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm glad that it is nominated. And I'll tell you why, because Paul Thomas Anderson has never made a bad movie. Oh, I'll argue with you about that. You can name any, please, come on, bring it. I've seen all of Paul Thomas Anderson's films. He is incredible. Licorice Pizza. Very excited to see that. Nightmare Alley. This looks to be a Guillermo del Toro film. I don't know what Nightmare Alley is. Power of the Dog, which is a Netflix film. That's nominated. Power of the Dog is very good. Of the movies that I have seen, right? I mean, I expect after seeing Licorice Pizza to go, that's the best movie of the year. But of these movies so far, like Dune was really good. But Power of the Dog was really good. Power of the Dog is a Western about two brothers. It's good. It's if you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix. And I don't even like Westerns, but Jesse Plemons and Benedict Cumberbatch, whatever. They play two brothers. Kirsten Dunst plays the lead female role in it. She's terrific. And her and Jesse Plemons are married in real life. Or, I don't know, Hollywood married, where they live together and have kids and all that stuff. Maybe they're not really married. I don't know. I think they're married. Whatever. Jesse Plemons is Landry from Friday Night Lights. I'll tell you, of all of the people that came out of Friday Night Lights, I would have never expected Landry to be the one that is like the movie star, the one that is like a real. He looks like Matt Damon. If Matt Damon was a shrinky dink and you left him in the oven for like a couple of minutes too long, he looks like a shrinky dinked Matt Damon. But he's so good. He's married to Kirsten Dunst. I mean, what happened to what happened to Minka Kelly, right? She came out of that. She was I was like, oh, Minka Kelly's going to be a movie star. No. What happened to who was the guy? Who was the guy? The linebacker? Can't remember his name. I don't know. Whatever. He made that movie, John Carter, and then that was it. They're like, okay, you got your shot at a movie. We're gonna make you a movie star. Movie failed. Okay, we're done with you. That guy, he didn't do anything. You know who did? Landry from Friday Night Lights, the side character, the curious weird kid in town, the one who couldn't play football but liked death metal. That's the kid that came out of the Friday Night group of people and is now the most legit actor of the group. And he's terrific. He's especially terrific in Power of the Dog. And rounding out the best film nominees, West Side Story. West Side Story did not do what we were told it was going to do when months before West Side Story came out. Steven Spielberg's best film. This is going to win everything. This is going to be the greatest film you ever saw. No, that didn't seem to happen. I know a lot of people who saw West Side Story and were like, it's boring. It wasn't great. So best picture nominees: Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Best lead actor in a film: Javier Bardem for Ricky Ricardo in Being the Ricardos. He was good. He was so good. I liked that movie. I really liked Being the Ricardos. Javier Bardem. All right. So right now, just on him, he would be my lead. He would be the guy that I would say, yeah, he was really good in that. Also nominated, Benedict Cumberbatch for the aforementioned Power of the Dog. Sorry, Javier. Benedict Cumberbatch in Power of the Dog was better than you. Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom. I don't know what that is, but he was good in Spider-Man, so it's nice to see him getting a little bit of love. Will Smith for King Richard, also the Venus and Serena Williams movie, and Denzel Washington for Tragedy of Macbeth. This is kind of an easy one for me. Even though Javier Bardem was really great in Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog. Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange from the Marvel movies. He is cool AF in this Power of the Dog. Actually, he's evil, but it's good. He does a good acting job. Best lead actress. All right, we're starting out hot. Best lead actress nominees: Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. She was so good in this. So good. First of all, Jessica Chastain is like number one on my power rankings right now for like the actresses who can open a film, and I will definitely see the film because she's in it. Jessica Chastain, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. She was so good as Tammy Faye Baker. Olivia Coleman, who I also love because she's the queen in The Crown in the Netflix series. I love Olivia Coleman, but sorry, dear, Jessica Chastain. She's still getting my vote. Also nominated for Best Lead Actress, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers. Didn't see it, won't see it. Also nominated for Best Actress, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos. Ooh, she was good as Lucy. She was really good as... Sorry, Jessica Chastain. She was good as Lucy, but not as good as Jessica Chastain was in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And Kristen Stewart for playing Lady Diana Spencer in the film Spencer. Best Supporting Actor, Ciarán Hinds for Belfast. Didn't see it. Troy Kotsur for Coda. Didn't see it. Jesse Plemons, Landry for Power of the Dog. J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos. He played Fred Mertz in Being the Ricardos. He was terrific. J.K. Simmons is terrific in everything. I would even buy insurance. He's the State Farm insurance guy in those commercials. He's even great in those commercials. But I'm sorry. Fred Mertz did not have that big of a role in Being the Ricardos. I mean, I like that J.K. Simmons is getting recognized again because he's awesome. But no. Cody Smith McPhee for Power of the Dog. Ooh, was good too. But I'm sorry. Jesse Plemons, man. Landry, I'm telling you, Landry should win an Academy Award this year for Power of the Dog. Jesse Plemons. Best Supporting Actress, Jessie Buckley for The Lost Daughter. Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Dame Judi Dench for Belfast. Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog. This is interesting. She's married. Isn't that nice? Her and her husband, Landry, from Friday Night Lights, and Kirsten Dunst, they're married or whatever. Like I said, Hollywood married. I don't know what that is. They're both nominated in supporting actor and actress categories. They're not competing against each other, but good for them. That's awesome. How awesome would that be if they both won? Or what if one of them wins and the other doesn't? Is that weird? Is that weird because you got to be upset that the person you love didn't win, but also you're really excited because you didn't? I tell you, these Hollywood couplings are tricky business. Tricky business. All right, there you have it. And then I guess director, best director. And here's what I'm going to say about best director. Kenneth Branagh, Raisuke Hamakaguchi for Drive My Car, Paul Thomas Anderson, the great Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion for Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. Hey, you know what? Let's do a people of color count, because isn't that a big thing that they always accuse? Oscar's so white. Let's see. I didn't even notice what the people of color count was. How we doing? Best director, no people of color. Best lead actor, Will Smith and Denzel, too. Best lead actress, nope, all white people and Penelope Cruz. Best supporting actor, I don't remember what Cody Smith McKee is, so we'll just table that one. I think that might be the black guy. I'm not sure. Best supporting actress, Ingenue Ellis. I'm guessing that's a person of color. There you go. All right. Well, I don't know. All right. So there you go. Those are the Oscar nominations and snubs. Now, here is the other thing that is trending. Snubs. Who got snubbed for the Oscars? And look, the two main people that they're saying got snubbed for the Oscars are Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, and I would agree that she got snubbed. She was really good in House of Gucci. And Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza. They're saying I haven't seen that yet, so I can't comment on it. I mean, I can, but wouldn't have any real I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's okay that they got snubbed. They didn't get snubbed last year, right? I mean, wasn't that the year of A Star Is Born? They were like, everybody was, oh, Gaga and Bradley Cooper, Star Is Born, they're fantastic. The 2022 Oscar nominations were announced on Tuesday morning and included some shocking snubs in the acting races. Our overall odds, more gambling, predicted 70% of the nominees for Best Actress, Best Actor, and Best Supporting Actress, and Best Supporting Actor. While we aced the Best Actor category, just 3 out of 5 of our predicted nominees in the other races are among those contending for the 94th Academy Awards. 8 Screen Actors Guild Awards nominated performers aren't even in contention at the Oscars. Leads, Lady Gaga, House of Gucci, Jennifer Hudson, Respect, as well as supporting players Catriona Balfe for Belfast, Kate Blanchett for Nightmare Alley, Ruth Negga for Passing. Ruth Negga is awesome. Ruth Negga is a tremendous young actress. Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, and Jared Leto for House of Gucci. And Ben Affleck for The Tender Bar also got snubbed. Jared Leto for House of Gucci is interesting because we talked about him yesterday because he was awarded the worst performance of the year by the Golden Raspberries. Jared Leto plays such an over-the-top. I mean, I said when I was watching Jared Leto do this performance in House of Gucci, I didn't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm like, is this one of the most incredible, memorable, over-the-top, dramatic performances in history, or is this terrible? I couldn't tell. I could not tell. The Golden Raspberries said terrible. The Screen Actors Guild said fantastic. I have no idea. All I could say is watch House of Gucci. You'll enjoy it. And then get back to me on what you think the deal with Jared Leto is there. Benefiting from ruthless snubs were Kirsten Stewart, who redeemed herself after being ignored throughout most of the awards seasons for playing Lady Diana Spencer in Spencer. Penelope Cruz. All right, we don't need to go through these. Not nominated. Here's the list of not nominated Best Actresses who have been nominated for many other awards this award season. Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, Alana Haim for Licorice Pizza, Jennifer Hudson for Respect, Rachel Ziegler for West Side Story, and Renata Rensvi for Worst Person in the World. Not nominated Best Actor, Leonardo DiCaprio for Don't Look Up, Peter Dinklage for Cyrano, Nicolas Cage for Pig, Bradley Cooper for Nightmare Alley, and Joaquin Phoenix for Come On, Come On. Not nominated Best Supporting Actresses, who were expected to be nominated. Catriona Balfe for Belfast, Ruth Negga for Passing, Marlee Matlin for Coda, Ann Dowd for Mass, and Kate Blanchett for Nightmare Alley. Not nominated Best Supporting Actors, Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, Jared Leto for House of Gucci, Mike Feist for West Side Story, Jamie Dornan for Belfast, and Ben Affleck for The Tender Bar. All right. There you have it. Those are the snubs, as well as all the people who have been nominated. Ooh, I can't. We're not going to go very much longer than normal on today's show because I am telling you, as soon as I get off of this thing, I am going to go directly into the shower and I'm going to do one of those like super hot showers where like everything comes up and cold. It's just a cold. I feel fine. Did I miss anything? No, I didn't really miss anything. That's pretty much it, folks. All right, let's go back into the chat room. Let's see what you guys have been talking about all day and see if we can run through it. I appreciate you sticking with me today. Jeff Glenn says 1910 was a good year. Well, it's also the year when they founded the Boy Scouts of America. So there you go. Ross Rubio. Ross Rubio says that the fire starting technique taught by the Boy Scouts came in handy for him last year during the freeze. Well, what happened? We had no problems. They told us that it was going to be like, Snowmageddon Part 2 the past weekend, and it got cold a couple of days, and it was pretty much fine. Here's what I did enjoy, though. Did you go out and drive at all over the weekend? I did. I made sure that I did. There was nobody. When I went to pick up my kid on Friday, Friday was like sort of, ground zero for the cold snap that we went through last week. When I went to pick up my kid on Friday in rush hour, all the way up 75, up to the part of town that he lives in, there was no traffic. It was like me and 3 other cars at rush hour. It was wonderful. And then I also did some shopping. I had to run around and do a little food shopping before he gets here. There was nobody in the stores. The stores were empty. The parking lots were like, what? It was great. It was great. I enjoyed it. I truly did. But yeah, we did not get the massive power outages and all that stuff that were predicted. So, but also we didn't get, that was not bad weather. That was not bad. You spend a day in the house, let it blow through. It's not like it was sustained for like 3 or 4 days of like terrible weather and winds and snow and blowing and drifting and ice. And that didn't happen. But they tried to make us think that was going to happen. Whoa, did they try and scare us? They sure did. And you know what? Whenever these terrible things happen, they never see it coming. Never. Not once. So whenever they tell you it's coming, it ain't coming. They never get it right. The really bad ones come out of nowhere. The really bad ones, they just blindside you. All right. Jeff Glenn says he's still very popular in certain circles. I don't know who that is. I might be talking about James Dean. Oh. Kevin Barber agrees with me that Mary Steenburgen is a gilf. Yeah, she is. Mary Steenburgen is cute. Happy birthday, Mary Steenburgen. Jeff Glenn wants to see a sumo wrestling fight between Vince Neil and Axl Rose. That would do some pay-per-view business. And then let's see here. There was the Vern Troyer talk, because we were talking about Emmanuel Lewis and Arnold. What was his name? Gary Coleman. I don't know why Vern Troyer got brought into that. It's just, I'd like to know what Channel 9 was thinking. So we're talking about, like, I get why when we're talking about Gary Coleman, that could drift into a conversation about Emmanuel Lewis. But how did he get dragged into this? What does Vern Troyer have to do with Emmanuel Lewis and Gary Coleman? I don't know. Just another white man trying to hone in on the black conversation. What else did you think might have killed Anna Nicole Smith? It certainly wasn't exercise. Oh, look at you, Mr. Jeff Glenn. That's not very sympathetic. She was a tragic figure. Then we got into some pot roast talk. I want pot roast. I want pot roast so bad. But you know what I'm going to have? I'm going to have rice and an apple. It's not good for a cold. That's my, like, what would be the easiest way for me to get pot roast? Like, I want pot roast. Pot roast is trending. Everybody's talking about it. Like, is there a Cracker Barrel anywhere? No, because I don't want to spend that much. Because if I was to get like a to-go order for, oh man, grocery stores. Yeah, but do I want to get like frozen pot roast and then put it in the microwave? That's not pot roast. Well, just not going to get pot roast. That's the deal. You don't always get what you want. I want pot roast. I'm not going to get pot roast. I want pot roast with gravy and some potatoes and some carrots and onions and garlic. Oh, okay. Pot roast is trending, and now it's all I can think about. I'd settle for meatloaf. I could make a meatloaf. A meatloaf would be easy. Except meatloaf is never as good when you make it for yourself. Meatloaf is really dependent on somebody making it for you. That's really the important part for me. Oh, now everybody shit talking meatloaf from back in the couple hours ago in the chat room. The argument about does ketchup belong in meatloaf? It does not. Neither does red sauce. Meatloaf is a brown gravy thing. Mashed potatoes and niblet corn on the side, and you mix the corn with the mashed potato. Oh boy, it's so good. So good. What does April say? Yes, y'all go eat meatloaf and use heroin. That honestly, that sounds wonderful. That sounds me. That's going to be me and Jeff Glenn when we're 80 and living together. We're going to make a meatloaf. I'm going to let him make the meatloaf because he seems to be like the cooking guy. So yes, Jeff, sorry to point out, but you are the woman in our relationship. You are going to make, you'll make a fine home for me. You will make the meatloaf and then we'll do heroin. That'll be our thing. Boston Market. Yeah. I don't know where there's a Boston Market around here though, but that's a good idea. And Boston Market's too expensive. I can't afford Boston Market. I'm on a budget and a diet. Let's see here. And here's the like I want meatloaf. And I don't imagine that like if I went to Boston Market and like, okay, can I get your like meatloaf dinner? It's not going to be enough. Like I want meatloaf. Like I want meatloaf for days. You know, I don't. So I'd have to buy like 2 orders of the meatloaf. And now we're definitely out of my price range. This is the worst part of the month because this is like where, you know, I'm really on a strict budget because I've just spent money on my kid and paid bills and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm fine. So we've got it worked out. This is actually the low pressure part of the month for me financially, but I don't have money to throw around on meatloaf. Maybe I should start gambling. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's start gambling. What little money you have, but it could double the money I have, and you could lose it all, dummy. Yeah, that's true. I could. More gambling talk. My 23-year-old gambles the old-fashioned way. He drives to an Oklahoma casino. Last month, he won $7,000 playing. You ready for this? Baccarat. Oh, he's pretending like he's in Hong Kong playing those fancy James Bond games. Adam Reyna says that she loves the Simpsons episode Lisa the Greek, especially as a father to a smart girl. Also, why is what Jimmy the Greek said controversial? Maybe he worded it wrong, but absolutely true. The slave owners picked the biggest, strongest slaves, and they tried to breed them like horses. That is true, but that seems, and like I said, I just watched the Jimmy the Greek thing last night. That is the sentence of what he said that we all remember, but that's not the troubling one. What got him fired was he was then asked a question about, and boy, talk about this being germane to today's conversation. He was asked the question about black coaches in football and baseball. And Jimmy the Greek said, well, they can't have that. We can't have that because then what do we, the white man, have? The white man doesn't have anything if they go into coaching. Then what'll the white man? That was what really got him in trouble. But the thing that we all remember was his analogy of the slave owner would take the big black slave and he would breed him with the big black female slaves so that they would have big black kids. That's the one we all remember. But he said more than that. He went on giving this interview to this person at this banquet. It's so crazy. He's sitting like at a banquet table, and the person interviewing him is standing over his shoulder, probably with just like a little recording thing. It wasn't a set interview. It wasn't like he was expecting it. Jimmy had probably had a couple of drinks in him, and he was relaxed. He was just, well, let me tell you about the black man in sports. So there was way more that he said. But Adam, you're absolutely right. The part that we remember is his what I think is true. I think he didn't necessarily get in trouble for discussing the breeding practices of slave owners. It was his outright disgust at the idea that we could allow black people to be coaches in the NFL, because then, as he said, with the superior black athlete, the white man would have nothing. That's what CBS at the time had the real problem with. It's good if you have access to all the 30 for 30s. It's called The Legend of Jimmy the Greek. It's interesting. Yeah, Rick Bradley's talking about how they go a little too far with all the bets. They will find a prop bet in the Super Bowl for anything. Rick points out the coin toss thing, the color of the Gatorade, the temperature at kickoff, all of those things. Oh, let's see. April, Chris Kattan and Lamar Odom are completely clueless about the show. This is April's talking about Big Brother, the Big Brother house. I saw something with Chris Kattan trending yesterday. Apparently, Chris Kattan is a hit among the people on Twitter. They seem to really like Chris Kattan. Chris Kattan was being hashtagged with people posting stuff like, Chris Kattan is my everything. Hashtag Chris Kattan. Apparently, Chris Kattan, what did he do? Remember, he played Chris Kattan, boy. One of the most forgettable people in the history of Saturday Night Live. Like the one bit that people remember from Chris Kattan is a terrible bit. Remember Mango? That was just absurdly ridiculous. I probably saw it when I was 20 years old. Here I am, a 50-year-old man. I still don't understand what the whole premise of Mango was. What was funny about that? That people are gay? I don't get what was funny about the Mango bit. And that's what Chris Kattan, is best known for. Although Mr. Peepers, now I'm remembering Chris Kattan. Chris Kattan had another character called Mr. Peepers, which was really funny. Mr. Peepers was like the missing link. So he was part monkey, part human, and he ate an apple. Chris Kattan eating an apple as Mr. Peepers still slays me. So there you go. Look at that. I worked through it. I was saying that Chris Kattan was not memorable, and then I remembered Mr. Peepers, and now I'm like, yeah, Mr. Peepers was pretty funny. Mr. Peepers was great. Okay. Jeff Glenn says that Mormons considered black skin a curse from God. Yeah, they did years later. But as we said, John Smith's best friend was a black guy, and he made a black guy during the founding of the Mormon Church. A black guy was like his second in command. And then Brigham Young came in after John Smith had passed away, and Brigham Young continued the whole thing. Where he had not racist at all. And then it was the next group of people who came in who were all racist, and they're like, well, we don't got no black friends from black people. And you're right, they did. They wrote it into their whole bylaws that black skin meant that they spent time in hell and they were burned. Okay. And then that way of thinking carried through the Mormon Church until 1978 when they went, we probably got to stop this. This is not going to look good. There's one thing. Adam says there's a Carvana vending tower in the colony. Really? How cool. Yeah, I guess they're popping up all over the country. In the Carvana TV commercials, I just thought it was like a depiction of like a futuristic way to buy. I didn't think that they were actually these giant automobile vending machines being built. That's cool. I've never seen one in real life. Byron says the one in the colony has been there a while. Adam says, Don't Look Up sucks ass, like big time. I'm sorry you didn't get it. April agrees with Adam 100%. I'm sorry you didn't get it. Power of the Dog was very much meh, Jeff Glenn says. I'm sorry you didn't get it. Adam brings up a good point. I challenged the whole Paul Thomas Anderson thing. The Master, which was Philip Seymour Hoffman, playing essentially L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. Dude, you are absolutely right. If I were to rank all of the Paul Thomas Anderson films, The Master would be at the very end of it. When I first saw The Master, I couldn't get through it. It was too long. It was too boring. It wasn't interesting. It was blah. But then like a few years later, I went back and watched it again, and I thought it was better. Like, I guess I made it through the whole thing, and I went, okay, that's fine. But yeah, man, I mean, it's not a terrible movie. I would say this: The Master is a terrible movie when you weigh it against the other films that Paul Thomas Anderson has made. Yes, absolutely. It's his worst film. But if that's your worst film, I mean, it's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's tremendous. Adam says regarding Don't Look Up, I got it. It's too on the nose satire. Yeah, no, you didn't. You didn't get it. Adam also says, look at Adam Reyna fat shaming Jesse Plemons. He calls him Fat Matt Damon. That's not nice. He calls him Fat Damon. Taylor Kish. Thank you. That Riggins. Yeah, I was trying to think, Adam, help. I was trying to think of who I would have picked Riggins, Taylor Kish, whatever. I would have picked him as being the guy to come out of Friday Night Lights as being the big movie star. He had this whole, speaking of James Dean, on James Dean's birthday, he had this whole James Dean sort of quality about him. No, he didn't. His career seems to have completely petered out. I mean, I expect him to, show up in like a CSI now, not opening some big movie like was once expected from him. Now he's going to be like, a detective on the new Hawaii Five-0 or whatever. Man, Adam and I, we do not like the same movies. He says, I'm glad Lady Gaga wasn't nominated. That movie sucked too. Can we be done with Jared Leto? No, we cannot. No, first of all, the movie didn't suck. I thought the movie was really interesting. I enjoyed it. And I thought Lady Gaga was tremendous in it. And no, we cannot be done with Jared Leto because he's so weird. That's such a weird, like I said, I didn't know if that was the worst, dumbest performance I've ever seen that totally didn't fit the vibe of the rest of the film, or if it was genius. I have no idea. But I don't want to be done with Jared Leto. I like Jared Leto. Jared Leto's a good actor, which is why it's so weird. It's hard to figure out what was he doing in that Gucci movie. I don't know. I will say this. I'll give you this about the Gucci movie. It wasn't as good as the trailer suggested it was going to be. It was much slower. I mean, the trailer made it out to be like The Godfather, and it wasn't. It was much slower, but it was interesting. It was one of those movies where I had the Wikipedia page open with it while I was watching. So I would pause it and then I'd click on the people and read the real life story of the people being portrayed. I like those kinds of movies. I find those kinds of movies to be entertaining. All right, look at me. Me and Adam now agreeing on Ruth Negga. Ruth Negga is tremendous. Ruth Negga as Tulip O'Hare in Preacher, the FX series, is where I first saw her. And she is an absolute standout, badass, awesome actress in that show. And then to see her do different kinds of roles that are completely different from the Tulip O'Hare character, which is very much like a comic book, over the top, trashy but badass and kind of sexy female anti-hero, which is what she plays in Preacher. To see her go from that to some of the more dramatic roles that we've seen her do in films, she's terrific. She is really good. Okay, now we're talking about I said that in my future relationship with Jeff Glenn, when we're a couple of old junkies living together in a shitty apartment off the tollway, I'm thinking like up by Trinity Mills, something like that. When we're a couple of old junkies living in an apartment off the tollway, that Jeff is going to have to be the woman in the relationship, to which Byron says he's always he's the woman in every relationship. April, Lucky's on Oak Lawn has good pot roast. I would be happy to do an Uber Eats pickup. Oh, you're so sweet. No, you don't. No. But yeah, I'm going to look into that, April. Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah, Lucky's is right around the corner. Look, I could do that thing where I jog to my food because somehow I think that that's better. April also tells me, is this Chris Kattan? Did he tell the cast to vote him off the show because he's miserable? Albert loves mango. I never got mango. He was out of control. Ross and I agree. I don't think there was really anything funny about mango. It was kind of absurd. But Mr. Peepers was funny. Yeah, you know what? There you go. Adam makes another good point. Chris Kattan, probably better known for Night at the Roxbury with Will Ferrell, which was such a dumb movie. I used to think, let me say this, Lorne Michaels is a term that I use for baseball players who are hanging on too long. Lorne Michaels is playing his way out of the Hall of Fame. He is Lorne Michaels. If Lorne Michaels had stopped in like 2000, he'd have been a first ballot comedy icon Hall of Famer. But this guy, Yeah, I give you at a later date. I'll give you the full rundown on my feelings on Lorne Michaels. He was tremendous at one point, but he's slow and he's just making too many errors. Night at the Roxbury was not a sketch that should have been developed into a film. It's just not. It's ridiculous. And he's done that time and time again. He doesn't seem, although, maybe he makes it for like a budget of $10 million and he makes 30 million and he clears 20 and, that's all he's interested in. But when you look at all of these movies that Lorne Michaels has produced, you're like, oh God, he has produced some of the dumbest bullshit that has ever been thrown out there in movie theaters. Ross Rubio says that Norm Macdonald called most Chris Kattan characters Monkey Boy. Yeah. And Byron points out that Chris Kattan was in the movie Corky Romano. That's probably another Lorne Michaels stupid piece of garbage. Jeff Glenn says, speaking of movies, the Ray Donovan movie was the perfect ending of that series. That's good to hear. I loved Ray Donovan, and then something happened in the final season of Ray Donovan where I stopped loving the series. And I think it was, you know what it was? The first couple of episodes of the final season of Ray Donovan are so sad because his wife has died of cancer and Ray goes back to the East Coast and it's all and I think there were like 2 or 3 episodes where it was so slow, where it just wasn't the typical pace of Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan was a great show in the first few seasons. So I bailed out of it. And I am now, because a number of people have told me that the Ray Donovan movie is really good. So now I'm slowly making my way through. I'm trudging my way through that final season of Ray Donovan so that I can enjoy the movie. Because you're not the only person who has said the Ray Donovan movie is really good. Although I've also been told, people say, did you watch the series? Because you can't just watch the movie. Because if you didn't watch the series, then the movie is not going to be as good. But if you watch the whole series, the movie is great. Lorne Michaels produced 30 Rock in name only. That's entirely Tina Fey. Lorne Michaels, no. And you know what? Fine. I will give him a little bit of credit for 30 Rock. But no, he's got a lot of trash. Lorne Michaels' hits are way better than his misses the last 15 years. On that note, we're going to get out of here because I am sorry. I am really sorry. You're doing that thing, Adam, where you're just actively poking me. You're doing that thing where if I say blue, you're going to say red. You're doing that thing you do. Underrated movie. I enjoy that. The Wonders. Tom Hanks. Probably not his best movie. Oh, really, Pugs? Going on a limb? Going to say The Wonders isn't Tom Hanks' best movie? Oh, you know what movie I watched over the weekend for about 45 minutes? Because I just stumbled on it and I was like, oh, I don't remember this movie. Empire Records. I watched Empire Records for like 40 minutes on Saturday night. God, does that movie suck. That you want to talk about a movie that did not hold up at all. That movie is so stupid. And the teen angst, especially from the Rory Cochrane character, is just so absurdly over the top. I just want to punch that. Oh my God. I was working at an alternative station when that movie came out, and it was like we promoted the hell out of it. We did an opening in Chicago for it. All the stars came, and they hung out at the studio and they DJ'd for a day. And I was like, "It's a good movie. It's a good movie." And now I just watched it for the first time in like 25 years, and I'm like, "Oh God, these '90s kids, they're angsty bullshit." I mean, it's kind of my generation. I was like 25. I need to take a shower, and I need to figure out how to make some pot roast of some kind. If I take nothing away from today, it is that April told me that Lucky's, which is right around the corner, makes a wang dang dilly of a pot roast. Very excited about that. All right, we'll be back tonight at 9 o'clock. I hope you can join us. I love it when you do. Pillow Pundits with me and Parker. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to eat an apple. I need to run. I need to go run. It's such a nice day. And there doesn't seem to be any ice left. I haven't run in a week. So I ran for a full week, sprained my ankle, didn't run for 3 weeks, ran again for a week, then stopped because the weather. And then for the last 3 days, I've been like, it's just not safe for me to be running out there because there are patches of ice. Well, there's definitely no ice out there now. So. All right, guys, thank you so much for spending the afternoon. By the way, I've been really self-conscious today. Am I does it sound like my breathing is labored? Because it doesn't feel labored, but in my head, I'm like, oh God, am I breathing too hard? I don't have to agree. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. If I had different sounding drums, that might sound okay. Watch Los Espookies, Schmigadoon, MacGruber. Okay, I don't watch anything with MacGruber. That's another one of the worst. That's just such a dumb. I don't watch MacGruber. All right, no, he's. Adam says, I truly believe it. His production company is great. Well, you know what? I will look into it. I could be wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of things. Ross Rubio with a That Thing You Do reference. All right, bye, everybody. Love you guys. We'll see you again tonight at 9.